like some of the coolest people have like my content is like mostly live streamed, so and it's getting a little bit like more organized as I go along, but as I produce more stuff. Um, but some people like have like really good content. It might not be like well produced, but they don't get any views. It's like weird. I don't know if you gotta like pay off the YouTube Mafia or something. So I've got another card. I keep having to like check like am I on oh good, I'm on YouTube. That's awesome. That's rare. Hey, all right. On to the reading. I think. Hopefully we can stay online. Uh, I just like it's really frustrating to have to deal with this because it makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. And it like it's not supposed to be that hard. I just like streaming both YouTube and Facebook. YouTube is like it's better quality. It's better like it's like 720 or it's 1080p instead of 720p. So that's cool. Um, what is happening now? Seriously, like what's going on? Like, I won't let me use my mouse. It's great, isn't it? I need some up here. All right, so the I Ching reading. All right, I got a question that I want to pose to I Ching because just I don't know. I need to practice doing more I Ching readings. I've gotten through like probably 20 or 25 hexagrams. Like I've been studying them like pretty in depth. So and kind of trying to like visualize them and like imagine like scenes and pictures and stuff. Um, or scenes and like kind of like almost like trying to like storyboard the lines so that it like can like imagine the sense of time for the like for the hexagram and imagine how like the state of things like changes and imagine like how the symbols like change throughout and like imagine like the kind of like story that it's trying to like paint um, but also like there's so much depth with each I'm gonna have to get that in a second. So much depth with teaching. Like there's like nuclear trigrams, and there's like so you got like the inner and outer trigram, and then you've got like you got like the middle two trigrams, and they call those the nuclear trigrams. And I haven't like really learned about those. And then you've got you can divide the hexagram into like two trigrams, or you can divide it into three pairs of lines, or you can look at alternating lines. Um, and there's so much complexity. I just stick to imagining what the lines are painting, and and this book the Wilhelm Baines translation is pretty amazing. It's way better than the other like earlier English translation, which to me was like just really not very satisfactory. Or like when I found it, it's available for free online because it's out of copyright, but this one's not out of copyright. Um, and also, I'm trying to like imagine like illustrations that I want to draw for each I Ching. I might make like a set of like cards or something, almost like tarot cards or something like that. And then also, I kind of there's a book that I want to write about the I Ching, which is like sort of like reimagining the I Ching in terms of like data science or like metaphors for data science. Um, but that's gonna take me a long time. I've just been like so fascinated by it, like learning about it. It was something that I'd like come into contact with like a couple times. I'd like looked it up on Wikipedia, and I'm like, okay, like Chinese fortune telling, almost like Chinese tarot, like that's interesting. Maybe I'll get into it eventually. I'm just not interested in the Chinese language. I'll probably need to know that. And I'm still like I I know these are actually pretty rare characters. Um, like most of them anyway. So, and I don't know the pronunciations for them, but I know like I recognize some of them from Japanese. Actually, I've got all the phonetic pronunciations for Chinese and Japanese for the hexagrams like written down, as well as the some of the pronunciations for the like Korean hexagrams. And so, and another thing that I might want to do is like put together just some like cheap to produce like condensed documentation on like like those three languages and all the hexagrams, just the names and simple things like that, and selling that. It seems like it. I've already done a lot of the work to pull it together. Or I've got a lot of the information together. In order to get somebody to buy something like that, it'd be like kind of a lot more work. So, anyways, I like so the coins method is cool. Like if you want to like practice doing readings, but for some reason, whenever I do it with the Euro 6 method, or I like to call it the Artemision method, which the name for the genus for Euro 6 is Artemis. I think, yeah, which is like the Greek goddess of the hunt, or I don't know if it's like a full fledged goddess, but I think it's a daughter of Zeus. But that has nothing to do with that. It's just the genus name. But yeah, anyway, so that's like I don't know. I don't like calling it the Euro method or the Euro 6 method. Just like whatever it seems like simpler, and it's easier to Google in English. So anyway, got 56. I'm gonna just set one aside, and this one is another part of the process, but we're gonna keep it here. Right. And so you gotta split into two, and this is gonna take kind of a long time. I gotta remember how to split this because I'm kind of like superstitious about the left hand and right hand. I really don't like to mess this up because just to me like it either is like universally significant or it's not. So it's either just random and there's like an explanation for like why it's significant if it's random, and then also like if the universe really does kind of like manifest its like self or manifest some kind of like order like through like the selection of like things or through like through like rule of physics, um, then maybe it is meaningful. Like maybe what happens is meaningful. So you can view it really in both ways. Let me just check something real quick. So like I've been really excited about this stuff since I found it. I found like an essay on like shamanism described in terms of kind of in terms of like reverse engineering like the mind. So shamanism like as a way of like kind of like if you were to like use the mind as like a game console in a trance state. So say like your mind is a game console in a trance state, and you like plug in a game, and like the game that you play is like the kind of the question that you're asking or like the thing that you want to retrieve from the trance state, then like the things that emerge like within that experience are like archetypes or are like and what you're actually doing is kind of reverse engineering your mind's like ability to kind of like experience these archetypes interacting, and you're like kind of reverse engineering the mind's ability to like uh, viscerally experience these things. And it was a fascinating essay, and I clicked on another one, and it took me to another one about I Ching, and then I learned that the guy that invented binary numbers was fascinated by I Ching, and it may have like actually it may have actually inspired like binary numbers. Okay, we're done with that. So that one is no longer part of the process. We got the right hand pile, the left hand pile. Put this one down. Yeah. Sorry, this is like I've only done a couple of these. Some of the readings I've done kind of blow my mind, just in how profound they are. I haven't really gotten very good readings out of the coin method, but the coin method, like this method, has like the right probabilities for the changing hexagrams, whereas you have to do some funny things with the coin method to get that to really work. So I just count them out 4 at a time from the left hand. Let me just check that. Keep doing this. The question that I'm asking is like I just now whenever this then my stream kept crashing. The question that I'm asking is in the title of the video. So to I Ching to further justice and strengthen altruism, how should we balance love and fear? And I've just finished talking about like how fear is kind of the mind killer, how fear is like kind of a force that repels and pushes away and causes us to filter and like constrict our direction of attention and like the imagination of possibilities, whereas like love is pretty much the opposite. Justice is like one of the 5 Confucian virtues, and altruism I think is the primary Confucian virtue. I don't know a lot about that, but I have I wanted to make sure that I was clear on what the translation meant when it said things like success and furthering and justice and I still got a lot of work to do with that. Yeah. Okay. So, and I'm like really excited about this. Like, it's a chance for me to learn about like Chinese culture and Asian culture, and a chance for me to do something new. It's a chance for me to explore things, and to like kind of like put myself in a situation where I might even be able to like help other people, or like I can do it on the side for a little bit of money or something. And I really like learning about East Asian cultures. I know kind of a lot about I know a moderate amount of like Japanese trivia, just like about like random things, and it's a great chance for me to do that. Just make sure I got this right. You count them out in 4s. I haven't really used this box to do this, so just got this. It works pretty well for doing this. So I got 2. Jeez. You really got to be able to do this fast, otherwise you're gonna be like taking 30 minutes for a reading, and by the time you're done with it, the person's got to go. Or once I get into a rhythm of doing this, all right. So I have to make sure that is. Yeah, okay. And it, like, you can. No, I really don't want to mess up here. I'll have to start over and I'm mad because I can't ask the same question. I gotta figure out how to do this. Alright. Jesus. I look like I don't know what I'm doing. Alright. Everything's still straight though. I haven't mixed up anything. Get this guy out of here. He's no longer part of the process. So we got the 1 in here. So far I've got a 1, a 2, Um, I like the box because the sticks are not going to fall on the ground, which is fantastic. I just don't know like how to feel it yet. So like I can do this. This is nice. This is like bam, 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 bam. And we got another two. And so in this case, like that's really the only possibility. And that's why I Chings have a little bit of woo in them. like quantum woo. I like to think in terms of Ching physics, which is not really, that's a thing I made up, so it's not really. But Wu Ching is like centers around alchemy and centers around. I don't actually know a lot about it, but I hope to. So we got 1, 2, and 2. That's 5. Let me get these stick counts up. Jeez, it's just really not letting me like do anything on this computer. That's fantastic. Alright guys. I'm gonna change the screen so there's a little bit less interface. And whoop. Alright, this is an amazing set of graphics or visualization for Ching. Nice. I really want it to be like visible what I'm doing. So it becomes apparent. Let me just this whole thing like out of it. There's like 5 sticks here. Okay, so we are 1/3 of the way sampling through the first line. This is why you gotta do it fast. Because you might be here forever. And like I said, I mean the coin method is like you can do that in like 5 seconds. Like it takes no time whatsoever. Get stuff out of here. Ow, my back. Alright, so next things here. So I'm interested in this reading in particular because things are kind of dark out there, and I feel like people like so there's positive uses of fear and there's negative uses of fear. There's positive uses of love. There's kind of negative uses of love. That may sound counterintuitive, but really like, and love and fear is like an idea of like a force is not really. I don't know. Those might not be the right words, but it's really like a force that pulls people together, a force that kind of like not pulls people apart necessarily, but causes people to withdraw. And I don't maybe I shouldn't use such like Machiavellian terms. Sorry, like after I get through the first line, this will be like really fast because I like fast things. And it's just like it's fascinating how like this is really like a random number algorithm. So there's an article like somewhere else that describes basically here we go. There's an article that describes how and why it works as a random number algorithm, and it's like it's brilliant for being like for it's thought to originate in like the 2nd millennium BC or earlier, and it seems clear to me, and I've just started learning this that it probably evolved over the course of like 2,000 years or so. No, not like literally those Euro sticks. Wow. and I've been writing about I Ching. Um, it's just like it really like fits in with certain ideas that I have about philosophy and stuff like that. Um, my stream feed is not up. No. And now you know. Alright, so I'm gonna close that. And I don't usually have my desk like this, so I just want to have the counts up so I can just like blaze right through this. Foggy. Okay, I can click things now? I can ask clicks now? Is that right? What's going on here? Oh, wow. I'm moving. Shit. Okay. I just broke the fourth wall right there. They're not gonna be. Alright, so we got a 1, 2, 2 for the first count. Ah! Why? Okay. Yeah. He's starting to like no. Let's exit full screen. Really confusing. Okay, sorry guys. This is an interesting question to me because kind of like the political climate. I'm like phrasing the question as like we, as in like society generally, or me, or the people like around me, or the people who like also feel like this might be kind of like relevant to them. I thought I closed my stream. I hate trying to configure this stuff. It's it's not hard. It's just complicated. I like streaming to YouTube and the other one, Facebook, and so it's just too much. There's a lot of setup, and I like writing while I stream, but then I just talk and I don't write. Okay, we got a 1, 2, 2. Check this down. So okay, good. Wow. I promise once I do this twice, or once I do this once. I just don't want to get it wrong. All right. There's a lot of stuff to learn with this, so that's what I've been focused on mostly, not the other readings. Okay. All right, now you're all right. Beat the. Take one from the right. Okay. Put this one here. And then the other mistake that I make is switching up the right and left hands. And there's some mistakes that you can fix. Well, there's some mistakes that you can fix, and there's some mistakes that like, and it kind of sucks to have to fix a mistake. But for me, like I don't want to have to like do a completely new reading and then like start from scratch. I've only done like 4 or 5 of these, so I did one on Thanksgiving, and I got the hexagram weighting, and then the changing hexagram family. And it was actually really profound for like. I mean, first of all, it was on Thanksgiving, and then like the very last like. Ah! Very last draw. That sound will wake you up and terrify you. That's fear. All right, so the very last draw, like the very last like count of the very last hexagram, like I dropped one. I dropped a stick. I had to like figure out like it took me like a couple of minutes to like figure out like okay, like where does this go? And but then ultimately I figured out that like it didn't matter because it was going to produce the same reading, and then it produced that reading, and that was really profound because it was Thanksgiving, and then it was also like I started reading through it because I hadn't read the family hexagram yet, and so it was like interesting that was the changing hexagram. And family talks about like a situation like, or it is let's see, like wind on the outside, yeah, fire on the inside, and wind on the outside. So it talks about like building energy, like it kind of like to me it's like about like this the social unit of the family kind of like building energy and being like the source of energy, and then the like the wind on the outside is like the global like direction of that energy, or like the like so you have the social unit, the family kind of like building up their own source of energy, and then you've got wind on the outside, which is like the result of many of those groups of many of those nodes kind of like contributing their energy together for a common purpose. That's that's what the trigrams mean, or that's what they seem to mean. It like in relation to the judgment and stuff. Make sure that I got a valid count. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. And this is where you gotta be like, are there 8 here? Is this a multiple of 4? And if it's not, then and like I haven't used this box yet, so it's like yeah, it should be 1. Yeah. 1, 2, 1. So if we get the next one is going to repeat the same thing, the same options, and let's see, we got let's pick so we got a 3 and a 3, at least a 6, so at least an 8 or 9 really. No, no. What do you need the decision? Okay. Take one from right. There we go. Jeez. I need to be able to maintain conversation while I do this. Which is like, yeah, not actually that hard. Okay, good. For 3. So 1, 4, 3. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we got a 3, and a 2. So which is 8. Which is yen unchanging. And go ahead and write that down. This is probably something I'm gonna do like kind of often because I like live streaming, and then every time I like go to the I Ching, it's just like it's really profound. It's what's been like difficult for me to like complete reading all the hexagrams because it's just really it's just really profound every time. Like it sparks like when I start like really like thinking about like the hexagrams like meaning like and the lines, um, and then I start reading like the translation. Uh, Inevitably, I just get sent off on some kind of tangent, and then it ends up being like connected, like very well connected to something else that like I've been working on recently or learning recently, and I don't know, it's definitely changed like how like changed my perspective on everything. Changed how I look at every like pretty much everything. And that's like what it's well known for. Like is like just like totally enthralling like philosophers and writers, and like some writers will use it to make like plot decisions, and um, philosophers will be kind of like enthralled by like it's like simplicity, and then also its versatility. Like so, it's like it's simple, and then it's like incredibly versatile, and like it's it's weird. It's not like the hexagram that you get is like it's usually very specific, but then it's it's also very open ended. I mean, I guess it's in that way. It's like it's just like tarot, or it's not just like tarot, but I like I like just considering like I like how it like completely shakes up how I might have like preconceived some situation. Really, this one goes right here. I don't want to make that mistake. like like so I might have some preconceived like conception of some situation, and it just gives me a random like smattering of things to like consider alongside how I already think about that situation. So I have to like connect the dots and like explain it like in different ways, and sometimes it might just be kind of BS, but then every time I do it with the arrow sticks, I'm like, whoa, that's like incredible. Like it's happened like 3 or 4 times. So we got the N unchanging 8. Yeah. I'm supposed to like I've almost finished an article on this that I've been like really excited about writing, and I gotta finish it soon because I have a tendency to like write things and then just like 3 days ago like I'll spend like 3 or 4 days on it, and then like a couple days go by, and then next thing I know like that thing's like sitting in a folder for like 3 months. All right, so we got 49 sticks. If it's not 49, we gotta come this. This is terrible. The name of the game is Streamline the Process. Don't make mistakes. You don't really have to talk about it. You just do it. Yeah. I'm not really conscious of the camera. Wait. 35. be real honest, I wasn't counting. I just wanted to like make it look like I was counting. Because that would be lame if I was counting things and I like wasn't paying attention. But like you're basically dividing by 5 if you're trying to count whether and see if it's like 50 or 49. So I just yeah. Excuses. All right, so we're ready to go here. Uh, just pick something random and right down. Oh, camera. Wish I could stand up. By the way, it's really kind of dark out there. I don't know if you've seen the weather out there. The sun ain't shining. It's bad. Some of these bros. It's really dark out there. Alright. I'm gonna shut up. The whole point is to make, like, maybe not too late. And double check. I gotta figure out some kind of like trick of manual dexterity. And that's what I'm doing whenever I do anything. I'm like, how can I do this faster? How can I do this faster? And I'm always trying to explore like different ways of doing things. Okay. We got one. Alright. I'm gonna put it back on the visualizing I Ching page, which is awesome. This is like a pretty awesome tool. I haven't used it very much, but it gives you some like basic linguistic metrics on the structure of the hexagrams in the I Ching. It's built with D3. It's just got a whole bunch of like really useful data. Like the white ones are like good. The gray ones are neutral. The black ones are more negative, or auspicious, no misfortune, and ominous. Wait, no. That's not that. Okay. I'm really like taking my time with like learning this stuff. So. Alright, we got 113. That's about. On to the next one. I've never considered myself like wanting to get into something like this. So in that way, it's very intriguing. Very intriguing to me. So it caused me to change. Like I don't know. It's not something I considered. So like when considering like. I've been kind of unemployed for a long time, and like if I had a part-time job, I'm thinking about like maybe like working at Lowe's or something, because I could learn a lot about like tools and learn a lot about like other things. I don't know why that has not occurred to me before, but this would be something cool to do on the side. Reinforces all my interests, and then like I'd never really considered what that would really be like. So when I started considering it, it was like, wait a second, why haven't I thought about things like I don't know why I hadn't really considered it. I mean, I do know why I hadn't considered it because I would consider myself not interested in it, and then for some reason I became super interested, and like all of a sudden hey, wait a second, this would actually be a great way for me to connect to connect other people, to like kind of network with people, to like kind of. I don't want to get like too like connected with people that I'm doing like readings with. Like I've taken like a bunch of notes on like the ethics of doing like tarot readings, and like kind of like what the do's and don'ts and gotchas for like for readings, and some of the things were kind of like, oh yeah, I wouldn't even do that, and then other things were like, okay, I didn't consider that. Um, and then I read a lot about like kind of like how that would operate as a business, or as like, like how you would get started. Um, and I think for me, like the biggest challenge is, so we got an 8. The biggest challenge is like starting from scratch and networking, and then like in America, like and in the West, like tarot is a thing, and most people like don't know what I'm talking about when I say the I Ching, but like they've seen the sticks before somewhere, and they're kind of familiar with it, or they might be familiar with it. But then even like the hexagrams, they might not like. I would need something to like print out to give to them, which is tricky because the bands or the one of the like the earlier English translation is no longer protected under copyright. Uh, but the one that I like is so. And I don't want to like so I couldn't print that out and I gave it to him. So, I don't think so, but so I gotta like figure out stuff like that and like figure out how to like give people an atmosphere that's like is conducive to like reflection, um, and that's why it's appealing to me because it's like a thing that I can do that like I don't know fills in a lot of gaps and like offers like a little bit of, like self improvement for me too. Um, and then like something that I noticed when I went to go like buy a couple gifts this year. Like kind of cheap, but I think meaningful. Luckily, I got some good deals on a few things. And I want to break this. So we got another 8. Like, they didn't cost very much money. Yeah, but But I think they're I think it's valuable. Or the stuff I got was like, I mean, there were a lot of options, so I had like 4 of the options, and also um, I had to consider like how like what it would be like to have to like market the kind of thing that I was buying, which is useful for me. No spoilers. Which like caused me to go outside of myself. Like so like without money, like I haven't really been able to like for the past couple of years. Like I cannot stand the holidays because but I don't really care anymore. But like it's frustrating. Like everybody else is like, we do so much for other people, and I'm like, yeah, my life like sucks. Like nobody pays attention to it, and then like I can't do anything for anyone, so I don't get credit for that. So like I can't like I mean I can't like I could have I could eventually, but I like had a bunch of really bad hands. It's a 7, which is just which is a yang, yang, yang. So you got so far um, yin and yang. It could be an abysmal trigram on the bottom. Uh, There's a situation that I got into the other day where like I don't know, it's not a very good story right now. But I had to think of the situation in terms of or I decided to think of it like as though because like symbolically it seemed to map to like a hexagram or at least a trigram. And so one of the trigrams, like which would be on the outside or to the front, um, would be the abyssal. So it revolved around potential danger. Like I pushed myself into, or I didn't push myself into danger, but there was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, no, it wasn't yesterday. It was like about 3 or 4 days ago. 4 days ago. This is definitely going to start going a lot faster. I'm still streaming, right? And take your fingers off the pieces. I really do not like that movie count. But I'd really do that earlier. Alright, and we're done. Everything's got to add up. The nice thing is that there's like an implicit like checksum or like checking to it. So if you get one wrong, you're probably gonna get the other wrong, but maybe not. So like, and that's what's frustrating. Is like moving the sticks around and then being like all right, and then moving on to the next one, and then it's like, oh, I did something wrong. And so, novice mistake. 113 is valid. Yeah, it's 5. Okay, somewhat to 5 for now. I don't need this anymore. I don't know why I need it every time. That's frustrating. I'm gonna put it on the webcam real quick. I'm not actually there yet. I know I get that right. And we're accelerating. This is good. This is called jolt. Interesting thing about physical systems, they don't so easily have jolt. It's very interesting. They can, I guess, sometimes, but one does not so easily have to worry about that they're derivative in physics, in some areas of physics. So we got a 4. But there are all kinds of very interesting implications to that, and then it ripples through like the most like profound like parts of mathematical physics, including like, whoa, Noether's theorem. Oh, there's a theorem. we're not there yet. I think. I went on a profound Wikipedia journey. I thought I had a really cool idea, and then I found out that it was like related to Noether's theorem. I was very proud of myself. I just signed up for this like Facebook group for people that like need math mentors. Or on a Facebook group, they've now got math mentors, and I'm actually really excited about that. Looks like this is gonna be a 4, because there's no way to get to like anything more. Which means this is and this is the magic of I Ching. One thing yields another, like instantly, like because everything has to add up. Otherwise, you got to start over. And I Ching doesn't answer a question twice. So, well, alright, we've got A9. Okay, I guess I do need that. Jeez. Probability of 3 and 9. Oh, it's not on the screen. Probability of 3 and 9, and this is why doing it with the heuristics method is like is what I prefer. I mean, it gives you the right it gives you the right heuristic, or gives you more proper probabilities, which allows, like, when you try to do it with the coin method, the changing hexagram is not like really correct per se, or it's different. And then the coin method is also like it can also be physically biased. Ooh. Whereas this is purely logical. Like there happen to be physical like objects, but it's purely logical. Okay. You'd think I would memorize these things by now, but I really haven't done. I haven't done enough of these. Okay, looks like we've got. Okay, find my sheet. The bottom hexagram is, or the lower hexagram is no, the gentle Ching. Ching. Okay. Keep this here. It's okay with you. And the idea, like, I was right. I'm in the middle of writing 2 different articles on the I Ching. One is like maybe the beginnings of a book. I don't know. I have to, but it would take me a long time to research it like properly, and then it would basically reinterpret, not necessarily reinterpret. Well, I don't want to say like it would totally reinterpret the I Ching, but it would try to interpret the imagery of the I Ching and like the time and the language of each hexagram, the images, time, and language of each hexagram in terms of metaphors to data science, or metaphors to math. Right. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I did it right. There's like it's like a ritual. There's a habit to it. The other article though talks a lot about like, or I have a section that talks about the concept of the ridgepole, and then I connect it to the concept of or the I have the word here, but to a pattern in older Japanese like masonry and like house building, where there's like a singular like ridgepole that has like outward juts, which is a pattern in other like cultures architecture, but the Japanese traditionally did not use nails, and I think that might be true of several East Asian countries, but because of that, they survive earthquakes, or they're more earthquake resistant, and but they have a feature in them that is like the ridgepole, or I think actually it's called the ridgepole. I just can't remember what the Japanese term is for it. Nagoya, but I don't know. That's something else. Okay. But that represents the Taiji concept. The Taiji was introduced after the Hao Yin Yang. And kind of like links everything together, and the Taiji like kind of encompasses everything, but also supports everything. Everything comes back to it, and like it functionally serves the same purpose as the ridgepole and Japanese like in traditional Japanese like woodworking. And one book that I want to read about I Ching is Mandate of Heaven. I can't remember who wrote it, but let's have a fun. No, pay attention. I like. I really like. I don't want to do it wrong. Okay. This is okay, right? Yeah. Those are me really mad. I'm not really mad, but I mean, it would be pretty easy to sort through and find out what what happened, you just can't sample twice. I mean, the only other option for me is a 4 or a 3. This should be a 3. There's a few mistakes that are easy to make if you're not paying attention. Alright, and I can't get it to go all the way like straight. Okay. Moving right along. And this is a 7. Right. 7 should be, let me look at the cheat sheet here. I should write these things down on here. Yeah. I don't know, like, this is ridiculous. There's like so many like trivial things to remember, and then I remember some that are not very hard. This is the hexagram thus far. The lower trigram is Ching, which is the gentle, and represented by wind. If you just do it and focus on it, it's easy and fast. It's a 5. Looks like it's not going to be a 9. Or no, oh, never mind. Looks like it's not going to be a 6. Let's see here. I guess the first reading that I did, the first reading that I did, I did this somewhere. Yeah. First reading I did, I got decrease and dispersion. Yeah. So it's decrease changing into dispersion. So, and that was for the article that I was writing. That kind of covers the creative and the receptive, which underlies like it was kind of like corresponds to a lot of like how a lot of ideas or a lot of conceptions that I had about like metaphysics. Which is that there are metaphysical things out there, and they're completely independent of time and space and Earth, and but the forms on Earth like gradually kind of like congeal and begin to approach the forms that are in heaven, but may never be able to precisely, and I don't believe they can ever like completely embody those forms. This doesn't matter. I mean, it kind of does. I did it in the wrong order, but it's the same result. Okay, I'm not gonna like that. Like, I'm trying to figure out if I like this thing, and so far I do. Pretty like because I don't drop any sticks. It's fantastic. That one. So it looks like it's it could be a 9. You never know. Let's see. Well, yeah, it's a 9. Do you believe in modular arithmetic? Oh. So that's a 9. 9 in the 5th place means move on to the 6th place. Alright, final line. Okay. That is some weird thought. I'm gonna do this right. So it's a 3. It has to be a 3 anyways. Why would it do that? It happens fairly frequently, like specifically with this. Oh, okay. My hand cramped on like the 4th line and the 6th line. Dum-da-da-dum. Not gonna be 6. You know that. Not gonna be an 8. Well, I don't really know. I don't try to look when I'm doing this. Good night. Really nice. It's not gonna be an 8. I mean, it's not gonna be 7. Yeah. Because this one's gonna be a 3. That's it. Yeah, once I get rolling on this, it's pretty easy. It's simple. I paid a lot of money for it. I mean, not a lot of money, but alright. I'm gonna break one. Yeah, that's a 7. I think. Oh, that's an 8. I just finished this. I just finished this.
How much? You do if you do really good, starting whenever you wake up, and you don't take my medicine, I will pay for it. If you ever do this again, I won't pay for it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll be out there in a second. Or well, yeah, I'll be there in a second. This is coming to meet. This is why like Ching just I don't know what the hexagram means yet, but it's a goal. I think. But I'm not sure what that means yet. But it seems like relevant to my question. Huh. So coming to meet, changing into before completion. I'll be back in a few minutes to interpret what that means. I have to run outside real quick before I can't do that. So, like I enjoy being productive. I really do. And if I lived anywhere else, I would be productive. Like I mean, if I was around people that were working, like I could probably work around the clock and be productive. But my life here is kind of a joke, and I'm not really supposed to complete anything. So, although like working helps. Yeah. before completion means that you don't know whether or not it's going to be complete, or you're not sure that if form is finished manifesting. And if you're not sure, or if you think you're sure and you're not sure, then that's what the hexagram means. I have to interpret what it means as a changing hexagram. I'll be right back. This is. I'll need to. I'm concerned with what's going on in the stream. That I'm not sure who's watching is really if you are watching, I'd love to talk to you about this stuff. You're right. Alright, I'm back. Uh, I'll be right back though. Yeah, well. Alright. I'm pretty interested in how this has turned out. I hope this is still going. There's a lot of event logs. So I still can't click anything on the but crap, I'm gonna flip this video. Let me go ahead and do that. Flip it horizontally. And there we go. So I got coming to meet 44, changing into before completion. And there's like an unintentional hexagram here. I forgot what that one is. This one too. So I'm kind of excited about this reading because I asked kind of a difficult question, and like the heuristics just kind of like sometimes they really surprise you, and this one kind of surprised me because it's a relevant question for society today, and like there's things are really tense right now, and it said I mean the hexagram 44 coming to meet implies coming together. So the answer, well, maybe not the answer. Once I read the lines, I'm gonna have to. I haven't read through that one. I've read through the changing hexagram. I've studied that one a little bit. I have to interpret this. I just in my pants. But let's see here. I'm excited about it because it's like what do we need to do about how should we balance love and fear, and the answer is to come together, or well, that's the state of things. The state of things is coming together, and I'm not really sure how to like interpret the changing histogram. Of course, you have to like read through the lines. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. 2 hours into the video. Did it really just take me 2 hours to do that? I don't think so. I must have been off on tangents. I was, certainly. It's not as dark outside out there anymore. Cool. I think come and meet. All right. That's what I'm saying. It's like weird. This hexagram indicates a situation in which the principle of darkness, after having been eliminated, furtively and unexpectedly obtrudes again from within and below. Of its own accord, the female principal comes to meet the male. Uh, it is unfavorable and it is an unfavorable and dangerous situation, and we must understand and promptly prevent the possible consequences. What? This hexagram is linked with the fifth month, June through July, because of the summer solstice. The principle of darkness gradually becomes ascendant again. But I think we just had a solstice like 2 days ago. Well, I mean, I guess it's not really that all that. Like, yeah, so the judgment coming to meet the maiden is powerful. One should not marry such a maiden. Okay. I'm just gonna read these real quick. Well, the image under heaven, wind, the image of coming to meet. Thus does the prince act when disseminating his commands. Okay, so seems like the prince would be compelled by heaven or compelled to. I don't have enough information yet, but compelled to reflect like heaven's will, and it seems to have the power to project like energy. It says under heaven wind, the image of coming to meet. Thus does the prince act when disseminating his commands and proclaiming them to the four quarters of heaven. So it seems like the prince has the ability to project the will of heaven and kind of like spread things out kind of like quickly or like collectively like throughout society and proclaiming them to the four quarters of heaven. No, that may not be correct. Uh, that's great. Blah 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 blah. Oh wait, forget that. I mean, the motion is like upwards. It appears like propelling them to the four quarters of heaven. The situation here resembles that in hexagram 20, contemplation view. In the latter, the wind blows over the earth. Here it blows under heaven. In both cases, it goes everywhere. And that's what I meant. Like, it goes, like, wind is something that, like, you can't just have, like, a little piece of wind. Like, it has to be, like, it's like a kind of, like, collective, like, um, thing that influences everyone. Or, yeah. I mean, you can have a fire, and you can have, like, a gust of wind, but you can't, like, it's, yeah. It also, this is my own kind of personal, uh, not yet well informed enough opinion, but it fire is like fire seems to be like energy like focused in one place. Um, it appears in the hexagram family. And the wind also seems to like symbolize communication. Um, or like I mean, your voice is carried on like on the wind effectively. There the wind is on the earth and symbolizes the ruler taking note of the conditions in his kingdom. Here the wind blows from above and symbolizes the influence exercised by the ruler through his commands. Okay. Here the wind blows from above. Heaven is far from the things of earth, but it sets them in motion by means of. And this is what I'm saying. This book is like the little chunks of text that they include to explain what each thing means. Like really clear things up, and it provokes my mind and prompts me to think think about things, or it gives me a lot of like good fodder and direction for exploring these concepts. And here the ruler is far from his people, but he sets them in motion by means of his commands and decrees. So it's just like ridiculous, like how like it's just weird. It like the air six like seem to be just like I don't know. This is like eerie because I'm talking about and I introduced the live stream talking about they're discussing how fear is the mind killer and how fear constricts and filters the mind's awareness of cognitive processes to those that are more immediate in terms of space and time. So if you're given a fight or flight, or if you're in the middle of a fight or flight kind of situation, all of a sudden like your awareness constricts inwards, and you're concerned with the immediate time. Um, and there's also other like interesting aspects of fear, but people like consider possibilities less, and people consider they think less about the future, um, and love is different. So if you're gonna balance love and fear, um, love is more of an attractive force. It pulls people together. Fear it tends to push people apart, but then also people in fear tend to bond together, um, but for different reasons. Like with love, they accumulate together, whereas with fear, uh, they might group up in like smaller groups. Um, and there's also like social fear or like emotional kind of like anxiety or and there's also like fear of like an immediate situation, like an immediate threat, and things like that. So for this one, I need to read. I really wish I could. Maybe. There we go. Well, so we got a changing line on the third and the fifth. So that means I read the third and the fifth line. I've read the image, and then I read the ones in the. I think that's. It doesn't like it's counterintuitive. It's in 56, showing moving line in the fourth place, blah blah blah. Okay. So 3 and 5. Uh, there is no skin on his thighs. And walking comes hard. Uh, if one is mindful of the danger, no great mistake is made. And I have dry skin, so I'm just gonna put that out there. and it's really like I'm like really trying to like it's like my hands are like pretty bad right now. I'm not sure like I have like some kind of like what is it? I don't know. It's like a reaction to like either dry skin or uh, uh, like it's not bad. It just seems like it seems to be getting worse, which it really shouldn't. So it might like okay. Anyway, so line number 5, 9 in the fifth place means uh, a melon covered with willow leaves, hidden lines. Then it drops down to 1 from heaven. So the description of the third line is that there is a temptation to fall in, and the third line is there's no skin on his thighs, and walking comes hard. If one is mindful of the danger, no great mistake is made. And so it says there's a temptation to fall in with the evil element offering itself, a very dangerous situation. Fortunately, circumstances prevent this. One would like to do it, but cannot. This leads to painful indecision and behavior. I mean, it's like the book is like written for like how I feel about my situation right now. Or like, and maybe it's just so open ended. But but if we gain clear insight into the danger of the situation, and like, I'm not trying to like say it. I don't know. I don't know. So like, there's different people on like everywhere, and they're all like they're not necessarily evil, but they're like I'm like in the like I feel like I'm in the middle of so much like angst that like can't really be so easily like verbalized. So, but this isn't necessarily for me. This is also like for people generally, um, for society generally. I was thinking like like that since it's socially relevant, it could apply to whoever's watching or that. I really intended it to be for society in general, but then that's difficult to it's difficult to relate like the figures like in this hexagram to society itself. Fortunately, circumstances prevent falling in with the evil element. This leads to a painful decision and behavior, but if we gain clear insight into the danger of the situation, we shall at least avoid more serious mistakes. And so 9 in the fifth place, a melon covered with willow leaves, hidden lines, then it drops down to 1 from heaven. The melon, like the fish, is a symbol of the principle of darkness. It is sweet but spoils easily, and for this reason it is protected with a cover of willow leaves. This is a situation in which a strong, superior, well-poised man tolerates and protects the inferiors in his charge. He has the firm lines of order and beauty within himself, but he does not lay stress upon them. He does not bother his subordinates with outward show or tiresome admonitions, but leaves them quite free, putting his trust in the transforming power of a strong and upright personality. And behold, fate is favorable. His inferiors respond to his influence and fall to his disposition like ripe fruit. And that's the description. So I was kind of hoping that it would go into that's the description for the fifth line of the of hexagram 44. and that's intended like to me that the hexagram describes the state, and then the changing, and this may be incorrect or not. I mean, it's definitely not nuanced, but to me, the changing hexagram represents like almost like the it's almost like position and then like momentum, or position and like velocity or something. Like you got the state and then like the orientation of like change. But it's really hard to like say what that means precisely for kind of a lot of things. Uh, Maybe go back here and see if there's any interesting things in this book. Let's see. The hexagram of coming to meet takes its meaning from the one dark line that develops at the bottom. And you can see that here. And that's the only in line. And on the other one, they're all alternating lines. It's before completion and not after completion. And one like after completion deals with like things that have frozen over, like, and there's like in both of them, I think there's imagery of like a fox like crossing a frozen river, I think. Yeah, there's like a line that says the little fox has nearly completed the crossing, but he has not yet passed the middle. And the time, I guess, kind of like follows the time follows like the fox crossing is a crossing the great water. I think so. I'll get that one in a second. But it's just like very interesting imagery. It's helpful to like imagine that situation kind of, or for me anyways, to imagine that situation kind of playing out. The hexagram of coming to meet takes its meaning from the one dark line that develops at the bottom, and the rest of the lines are, and this first line is the constituting ruler of this hexagram. Okay, and then the fifth line is the other type of ruler. But the 5 yang lines have the duty of restraining the yin power. Among the 5, the second and fifth have a strong essential character, and the second one stands near the yin power to restrain it, and the other holds the place of honor and comes down from above to restrain it. Therefore, the 9 in the fifth place and the 9 in the second are the governing rulers of the hexagram. So you have this is one where the okay. So the first line is the constituting ruler. And I'm not really too sure like what the precise differences are between the constituting ruler and the governing rulers. But that, yeah, it's like I'm sure I can read about it. I'll do that later. I'm gonna like review kind of a lot of things, but the ruler of the hexagram is normally like the line or the object of focus, or the like subject of focus, or the subject who's engaging in like the situation, or around whom like and maybe I'm getting that completely wrong. And coming to meet means encountering. Furthermore, a yin line develops below so that the dark principle thus unexpectedly encounters the light. This movement is initiated by the dark principle, the feminine, who advances to meet the light principle of the masculine. This hexagram is the inverse of the preceding one. Where's the 44? Found a lot of like interesting patterns in King Wen, the King Wen sequence. So there's a lot of symmetry in King Wen, or the King Wen sequence, and this looks like really messy, but there's almost like sub networks of like graphs. There's a lot of like symmetry. And so like all the hexagrams that are along the diagonal have the next they all have the next they're so every hexagram has a pair. There's odd pairs, there are odd hexagrams, there are even hexagrams, and so every odd hexagram leads to an even hexagram. I still haven't really considered the even hexagrams, like going back to the odd hexagrams, but all of the odd hexagrams in a diagonal and along the diagonal will lead to other hexagrams on the diagonal, and then there's all these other like kind of interesting shapes. But the shapes are kind of determined the shapes like seem to be most symmetric if you arrange the hexagrams in a specific way, where you put Chan, the creative, all the way to the left, and Gen, no, not Gen, Kun, like in the middle at position number 5, and then you put the three trigrams that have one yang in the left half, and the three hexagrams that have one yin. You put those on the right. Okay, I need to move on to the next one. So, I mean, this is really like, it feels really meaningful. The hidden lines, like where are the hidden lines coming from? Next is the changing hexagram. I'm just going to go ahead and skip the changing hexagram. I do kind of want to know what the melon means, though. I feel like that's... There's a hexagram that has something to do with a mulberry bush, and that's just like I can't remember which one it is. It's might be. It's not modesty, I don't think. But it's just a really interesting like allusion to a symbol, and it's just wrapped really well. Oh, it's in stagnation. I think. Coming to meet means encountering. This is the commentary on the decision. Coming to meet means encountering the weak advances to meet the firm. One should not marry such a maiden. This means that one cannot live with her permanently. And the maiden here symbolizes, I think, the first line, the end line in the first line, or I haven't read the. Okay, I only read the changing lines. When heaven and earth meet, all creatures settle into firm lines. When the firm finds the middle and the right, everything under heaven prospers splendidly. Um, Great indeed is the meaning of the time of coming to meet. I haven't read the whole thing yet. Shen is the eldest daughter. Shen is the gentle, or represented by wind. A yin line develops within and rules the hexagram, while the yang line stands aside as guests. While the yang lines stand aside as guests. In this way, the yin element becomes increasingly powerful. And this is the line of the trigram, kun, of which it is said, when there is hoarfrost underfoot, solid ice is not far off. And this is where one of those lines where it just like set me off on a tangent, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And that might have actually been the tangent that like compelled me to start like taking notes. I was only on the second hexagram, and I was like, oh crap, I gotta like really take notes about like. And so I started like. That's when I like decided to start putting my thoughts like from the first hexagram into the outline for the first article or the first draft that I was writing. And it's because like the receptive has to do with like it has like imagery of like the winter and when there's hoarfrost underfoot, solid ice is not far off. I mean that means that like winter is coming basically, like the meme. But basically like there's this ebb and flow of like seasons, and like the physical heat of like weather and weather patterns and of the sun like during any part of the year onto the earth, like the physical heat like compels and like facilitates and and encourages like the movement of people, and not and like more so in like ancient in ancient times than in the modern era, but it still applies to the modern era. But like, and in the same way, but it ends up playing out differently because of how we've like constructed our lives. So there's not like in the modern era, there's not such an emphasis on like participating in agriculture and like orienting your life around like the harvest and other things like that. But wintertime was like when people would kind of like draw inwards, and depending on what part of the country you're in, and also like the line from Kuhn, hexagram 2, the one that we're talking about, it also, well, hexagram 2, just, and I think, well, no, hexagram 2 just has references to cardinal directions, which are important for ancient China. Um, but then if you imagine it elsewhere, um, like in like an ancient context, you might imagine different directions because like it, ancient China was oriented around the like kingdoms to the north, which is where Beijing is today, and I can't remember the river. I want to say the Yellow River, but I could be horribly wrong. And there's a couple other river basins there, and in other hexagrams, there's like an allusion to fording the river, and there's a lot of rivers there, and I didn't know what fording the river meant, and it was interesting to like look into that. But in ancient China, like the power center was like especially in the northern kingdom or the upper kingdom. The power center was like to the right, to the east, but to the east and the north. Um, but so, but your agricultural centers and your social networks were that you would need to tap into if you were in the east, if you're near near the river delta or near the cities, you would need to tap into these power structures or networks of people to the west and to the south. But uh, the second hexagram describes like a flow of information, it's reference to cardinal directions seems to indicate and that's what the book says, like at least somewhat. It You would receive your orders from a certain direction, and then you would, I can't remember what the direction is, and then you would facilitate commerce in another direction. Um, yeah, I'm not getting that 100% right, but it's kind of fascinating to think about because um, that situation might be oriented like completely differently in the Mesopotamian or like in the Indus River Valley or the Ganges River Delta, and communities along there. Like they would have many of the same dynamics, but they may not. The directions may not be so like clear as they were in northern China. Um, of course, I mean that's like thinking a little bit out like maybe outside the intent, but I mean, it stimulated for me. It stimulated it stimulated my imagination and like think it made like it just stimulated like some really interesting trains of thought. And there's hoarfrost underfoot. Solid ice is not far off. I mean, that could literally mean solid ice in wintertime, but then like in winter, people draw inwards because the cold weather, um, and like the lack of ability to uh, maybe travel so easily if you're in like northern China, or the lack of the ability to engage in agriculture because you don't need to. Like so you draw inwards, like you, it's a little bit harder to travel um, and at that time everyone's together. and so and then because everyone's together, it's a little bit harder to travel, and uh, it's the it's the peak of the winter. Those communities are like closer together. Um, they're closer together, and they're further away from other like power centers that might have more influence on them, um, or other networks of power that might have more influence on them at other points of time in the year. But those power centers would also be able to would be more likely to project or they would be the ones that would have the ability to project power during wintertime if they needed to, because they would be the people centered like in the Yellow River Delta or in and around like Beijing and in the more settled regions of ancient northern China, and so they would be the people like conducting the most like travel, whereas people that had been engaged in agriculture would be withdrawn to their communities. And these are just dynamics that occur like in more northern regions, and they're just because there are more extreme shifts in weather at like higher altitude regions and in northerly regions and in valleys, and these are like trends that actually occur, like the hoarfrost underfoot line is like a trend that it's like I don't know. It describes like a dynamic that also is coupled to the topography of the region. So if you have like lots of like plains areas, there's probably less there's probably less roads connecting the villages in those areas, and then the that's not really a good direction, but the better way to say that is if you're like if you live in a valley or a mountainous region, like the roads are more clearly defined and a little bit harder to pass during the wintertime, and the the ways in which you travel are like fewer and far between. Like I mean, I'm kind of going into some novel areas, which is why I'm kind of tumbling over my words a little bit more than usual. Um, but it's one line, and it really, um, if you think about it in slightly less literal terms, then and think about it in terms of like people drawing inwards and almost like water would pull inwards to ice. If I mean obviously ice increases its volume as it freezes, but anyways, so I guess this is one of the hidden lines. A line develops within and rules the hexagram, while a yin line develops within and rules the hexagram, while the yang lines stand aside as guests. In this way, the yin line becomes increasingly powerful. This is the line of the trigram kun. Uh, kun. Oh no. This is the line of the trigram kun. We're still going to use the tonal like phonetics. Um, this is the line of the trigram kun, of which it is said, when there's hoarfrost underfoot, solid ice is not far off. We're back. Hence, the gradual expansion must be checked in time. For the way of inferior people increases only because superior men entrust them with power. And yeah, this is where like if somebody like is sort of enabling you, and but then has like sort of they've made sure that you're useful to them, but they want to also make sure that like they could find a way to replace you if they need to. Um, this kind of describes that situation. For the way of inferior people increases only because superior men entrust them with power. So they're put in a place simply because they're connected. And if this is avoided when the inferior element first appears, the danger can be averted. Okay, get the part with the mouth. So a melon covered with willow leaves, hidden lines, then it drops down to one from heaven. Melon covered with willow leaves, hidden lines, then it drops down to one from heaven. The 9 in the 5th place hides its lines, for it is in the middle and correct. Then it drops down to one from heaven. There's commentary. Because the will does not give up what has been ordained. And this is what I'm saying, like, I don't know. It's weird. You're like, oh, like, yeah. You're like, I don't know. And of course, it's easy to, like, and of course, I asked it in terms of, like, society. What does it mean for society? Or what does it mean for people in general in this time where we could deal with fear and have to balance it with love and how do we find that balance that allows us to further justice and strengthen altruism? So we want to strengthen altruism. Like we need to become one. We need to think as one and unify values and unify values that should be elevated. Um, and I mean, I'm not like just taking it at face value. I just like food for thought. When the firm finds the middle and the right, I'm not really sure what that means. It says Tian, Tian. Alright, Tian. Tian? Yeah, I think that's what it's talking about. Yeah, yeah. It's just a different like transliteration, which is like the one thing that kind of like frustrates me about this book, like, because it's the transliterations with the accents make a lot more sense to me, but Ching is round, hence it symbolizes a round fruit. Uh, Here the fruit is a melon. It represents the yin line at the beginning, and so belongs to the dark principle. It is protected and covered with willow leaves. No forcible interference takes place. The regulative lines of the laws upon which the beauty of life depends are covered over. What does that mean? Regulative lines. Oh, I haven't read the other lines. We entrust the fruit in our care entirely to its own natural development. Then it ripens of its own accord. It falls to our lot. This is not, and this is just the, this is um, Wilhelm's commentary on it. We entrust the fruit in our care entirely to its own natural development. Then it ripens of its own accord. It falls to our lot. This is not contrived, but is decreed by our accepted fate. Okay, that clears that up. Alright, the changing hexagram. I need to read lines 1, 3, 4, and 6. I'm sorry. I wish I knew this stuff like the back of my hand. I haven't quite finished. Haven't quite finished reading it all. Like not 60, it's 64. Okay, that's good. Okay, I've done 64 before, so it's actually one that I really like. Or I mean, I guess I like them all, but okay. 64. The judgment is no. The judgment is before completion and success. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to read the judgment. I think so. I don't know. I think people do it in slightly different ways. Thus, the changing hexagram would be the starting point of a development leading, by reason of the situation of 9, that's specific to the hexagram. Okay. The judgment before completion, success. Before completion, period, success. But if the little fox, after nearly completing the crossing, gets his tail in the water, there's nothing that would further. And that describes like a fox crossing like a frozen river, and the way Wilhelm describes it is that at first one must move warily, like an old fox walking over ice. The caution of a fox walking over ice is proverbial in China, and his ears are constantly alert to the cracking of the ice as he carefully and circumspectly searches out for the safest spots. But a young fox who is not who as yet has not acquired this caution goes ahead boldly, and it may be and it may happen that he falls in and gets his tail wet when he's almost across the water. So the younger fox hasn't experienced enough to understand that there might be something that isn't quite known or isn't quite finalized, and before completion seems to symbolize like the finalization of form, or like the completion of form as it's manifested. Um, but you don't know when that you don't necessarily automatically know when that happens, or you can't ever really be sure, and so you have to like work with like the forms or the ideas that you understand and uh, that you operate with and that you can communicate with as kind of like patterns, and but new ideas can develop, and if you don't understand those new ideas, then it may lead to disruption, or it may lead to miscalculation. Um, the image of before completion, fire over water, the image of completion before transition, the image of the condition before transition, and that's referencing the transition to completion. So I don't really think you can ever really get there. Thus, the superior man is careful in the differentiation of things, or in the distinguishing of things, or the delineation of things, so that each finds its place. Which is talking about like how you delineate things, how you like understand patterns, how you know that you're aware of like the patterns that people like operate with, or the processes that people use to conduct business, or to facilitate interaction, or you can think about it, a lot of different ways. I guess it should be specific to furthering justice and strengthening altruism. So, how do we balance love and fear? And this and intended love and fear is like attractive and kind of like repulsive, like forces, like forces that attract and uh, coagulate and bring together. Uh, whereas, whereas like fear kind of represents social like forces or social dynamics that kind of like push people apart, or um, they they also bring people together in a way. Um, but the first love, like the attractive force, or an attractive force, a force of attraction, brings people together in a way that like allows them to think about possibilities instead of like it, it facilitates like the development and discussion of like possibilities and new things, whereas whereas fear kind of limits discourse, or constrains like if you have like a list of things that you're considering as options, and suddenly like you become fearful, like either as a person, or um, like a family, or a small group, or society, you're gonna like when you become fearful, you're gonna like maybe cross out some of those options, whereas like if you become loving, you might like pull it together and then decide that like none of the existing options work, and then you come up with like new options, and you're thinking about new possibilities. Um, How's it touch on it? I think that would mean that love wins. Uh, I mean, no. I think that means love wins. So, or and as it relates the question to the as it relates to the query to Ching to the changing histogram, like if we're concerned about like ensuring that we know like the true differentiation of things or the true like if we want to know as society, and it's actually really important for like our era and our like development, like our unfolding development at as humanity or as America or as I guess as myself too. I mean, um, we need to know our options, and our options are going to increase like kind of rapidly. And this actually kind of like we need to unify around certain options. We need to put our energy into some options, but we need to expand the options, expand our like abstraction. Or I don't want to speak in overly general terms, but we need to expand and contract uh, in terms of in the context of how we decide to cooperate as a society. We need to expand the possibilities. We need to also like get rid of things that don't work. Um, and so in this hexagram, fire is above and water is below. And when this occurs, fire that which flames upwards is above, and water which flows downwards is below. That their effects take opposite directions and remain unrelated. If we wish to achieve an effect, we must first investigate the nature of the forces in question and ascertain their proper place. If we can bring these forces to bear in the right place, they will have the desired effect. This is relevant. If we wish to achieve, if we wish to achieve an if we wish to achieve an effect with regard to the forces of love and fear, we must, and they both have positive and negative, uh, I guess, usages or purposes in society. They can be used improperly, and they can be used in kind of like proper ways. Uh, Even though it doesn't sound good, because normally like, and this I guess I'll get back to what I was saying in just a second, but to get back to the other point. But in terms of like understanding the differentiation of things like that it mentions in the image, like when you're fearful, you not only like people fear things because they don't understand it, but not only that, once they fear things, they don't seek interaction, and then they don't like if there's something they don't understand, then they don't come to terms with it. They don't understand it. They don't get enough interaction to get enough input to make a different assessment or form beliefs that allow their current assessment or their current belief of the situation um, to evolve as conditions change. And this is what like division in society or division in my personal life actually is. I've been isolated for kind of a while. Like it's really easy to lose touch with people, and like people change. Like they're living their lives. They're encountering circumstances. They're living as much time as you are. They're experiencing pretty much as much time in life as you are. They might be experiencing it with more people. They might like in that way they might have like a little bit more experience. Um, they might have a greater variety of experience, and it's important to draw on that. But then, if you don't like, if you're socially like disconnected, or if groups of people are kind of disconnected, or if online communities are disconnected in their own like filter bubbles, they don't have discourse, or the discourse that they have is like very conflicted and very it grows division and it furthers division and once that happens, like you can't really, like you don't know like what's going on. You're not actually in tune with what like with what's going on, and like this is why I don't like um, really like shut the other side out. Like I guess uh, I mean I have like strong opinions about a lot of things, but I want to hear what the other side has to say, like in any context, but also like I don't know. But really, both sides have things to offer, and like all sides have something to bring to the table. And if you're going to understand like the differentiation of form or like the structure of like important ideas or like patterns of behavior that you need to know or like the socio technological development that is unfolding, then you're gonna like you need to seek discourse with people that you disagree with in like a healthy way and try to figure out how to come together, and then that's how you like facilitate understanding what you don't yet understand. So like by only associating with what you know and by associating with people who agree with you, and like when those people like are feeding on their own interactions to further like their group's like confidence in their beliefs, then uh, it facilitates like divergence and I can't remember where I was going with that, but a specific direction of mine. Then I got another idea. All right, so anyways, I mean, this is why I like this book. And I think we have to realize that there's a lot of problems that we're going to deal with. And like the fox that's mentioned in who's crossing the river, um, that river's not ever really going to freeze. Like we're approaching like exponential technological development, and like that means that things are going to get faster and faster and less like it's not going to be like completely unpredictable, but like things are uh, we're going to have to be very cautious. We're going to have to like and as trends accelerate, as technological trends accelerate, and as like social like response to those trends accelerates, it's gonna be hard for us to stay on top of that because it requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of like a lot of insight, and then it's all happening in different areas at the same time. And then, yeah, not sure what it means. How that would apply for myself. So the lines six at the beginning means he gets his tail in the water, humiliating. In times of disorder, there's a temptation to advance oneself as rapidly as possible in order to accomplish something tangible. And I've gotten this hexagram before. And the thing about changing hexagrams is that like the the normal hexagram like that is sampled with probability one in 64. For the changing hexagrams, like calculating the probabilities of those is quite a bit more complicated. So there may be or is a little bit more complicated. because you have to get changing lines to get to a changing hexagram, and then there's different like sets of changing lines that lead to a changing hexagram. But such enthusiasm leads only to failure and humiliation. If the time for achievement has not yet arrived. In such a time, it is wise to spare ourselves the opprobrium of failure by holding back. And in the second place means he breaks his wheels. Perseverance brings good fortune. And see, I don't understand. Like, I'm still interpreting this as though it's just a regular hexagram, so I'm not really sure. Like, here again, the time to act has not yet come. No. 9 in the second place means he breaks his wheels. Perseverance brings good fortune. Here again, the time to act has not yet come. Alright, I need a drink of water. But I don't. I'm gonna finish this in just a second. It's not too much. And that's it because I've been on here for 3 hours. But this is why it's like fascinating. He breaks his wheels. Perseverance brings good fortune. The time to act has not yet come, but the patience needed is not that of idle waiting through without the thought of tomorrow. Kept up indefinitely, this wouldn't lead to any success. Instead, an individual must develop in himself the strength that will enable him to go forward. So we need perseverance, even though we're stuck. He must have a vehicle, as it were, to effect the crossing, but he must, for the time being, use the brakes. Yeah. That was bad. But he must, for the time being, use his brakes and slow down, but also be persevering and investing in himself. Patience, in the highest sense, means putting brakes on strength. Therefore, he must not fall asleep and lose sight of the goal. If he remains strong and steadfast in his resolve, all goes well in the end. 6 in the third place means before completion, attack brings misfortune. It furthers one across the gray water. And how do these relate to love and fear, and justice and altruism? So yeah, I think instead of like, as with regard to the second line, he breaks his wheels. Perseverance brings good fortune. I think that means that we should slow down and like reassess our path and make sure it's the right path, but then also like not do so in a way that like causes us to lose momentum or lose lose traction necessarily, but we want to make sure it's the proper traction, the proper direction, and kind of reorient ourselves. Um, in the first line, he gets his tail in the water, humiliating. Um, like this would happen to the fox that's a little bit too young, like rushing out, boldly going, like a little bit faster than the person in the second line. They're just starting to break their wheels. Um, and in the first line, I think it means like we probably shouldn't like rush ahead. Um, I think it means like if we have conflict with people, like with regard to like social dissonance, like where we feel that we're not being loved or respected, or like um, or that we feel feared, or the other side fears us, or the other side has like kind of like pushed us away, or someone in our life has pushed us away, then we need to not like take the we don't we don't need to rush towards like the first like instinctual reaction that we have, like because of that, because of like the social like dissonance, like in terms of how we're like pulled towards other groups of people and pulled towards other individuals, and now like we're being pushed away at the same time. Because if we rush to like towards that um, with our current presumptions, then it may prevent reconnection or cooperation. So it's something that needs to be like assessed um, slowly and not and like tactfully, and we need to come back together. And in doing so, then we'll further justice and strengthen altruism. And really, that's the statement of like the goal and the query to the I Ching, like to further justice and strengthen altruism, like to do what is right and to ensure that what is right is carried out, or what is not right has like corrective action carried out, um, and to like somewhere in here like it talks about it's the beginning. It talks about how justice is the attribute further is correlated with the justice or with justice, which creates the conditions in which each resolves that which accords as being, which is similar to the Platonic definition of, or Plato's definition of justice in the Republic, which is that justice creates the conditions in which each receives that which accords his being, that which is due him, and that which constitutes his happiness. So, like, to get like if that's the objective, or if that's the thing that we would like to like optimize or like have more of or ensure is strong, or at least that half of the like the proposition, then then we need to make sure that the conditions that are necessary for that are in place. That are necessary for people to receive. I don't want to like sit here and paraphrase this over and over again, but the conditions like that are necessary in society and in like the spirit of law, like in the carrying out of law. Um, we need to make sure that those things happen, and then also we need to make sure that like people aren't forgotten and people don't feel like they're not that they're not getting what is due them. And now I'm just sitting here like constructing like what I'm thinking just purely based on this kind of this definition of justice, which is like sufficient for this paragraph. Which I think means I need more coffee. Or I need coffee. I don't usually drink these things, but yeah, definitely a waste of money. But so we need let me like step away from the definition of justice and think about it again. Well, altruism. How do we strengthen altruism? And I think that's through like a cultural transformation or socio-cultural transformation, and we need to make sure that we elevate certain values as a society, and that we can all have like we can all kind of come together like about what those values are and about what we need to do, so that we can kind of get so that we can all get on one page as America if we're interpreting this query and the response as like as it applies to society, to the context of society. I'm sure how it strengthen altruism myself. I think probably by displaying more love and being being fearful a little bit less. I mean, although I'm not like because for altruism to occur, I mean, you kind of have to have like you kind of have to have justice. If you don't have justice in place, if people don't have fair conditions, then they don't, and like justice isn't carried out, or um, they live in unfair poverty and they don't have a way out. Uh, then they don't see they maybe don't see like higher values or living in accordance to like their own values as being like worth it, or living in accordance to or striving towards like idealistic values. Like what's the point of it? Like if you can just simply um, and see, I'm not sure what the Confucian like. Confucian definition of altruism is. I need more of this coffee. I think we need to balance. We need to gravitate together, use the force of love to pull everyone together. Use the attractive force. The attractive force. We need to pull people together and get people on the same page, align people's incentivizations, and ensure that like the dissonance that justice or the carrying out of justice like is intended to correct. We need to ensure that dissonance doesn't exist like unnecessarily, or like we need to make sure that people are on the same page so that like there's not so much correction that's needed. Um, but when that correction is needed, we definitely need we definitely need it. Otherwise, like if the whole thing about rule of law and I'm thinking about like, and now I'm like thinking about everything in terms of society, which is useful. But I really meant like, I meant for this question to originally be for myself, but if just like the whole thing about rule of law is that like law has to be decided upon by like uh, representatives, politicians, senators. It needs to be like collaborated upon, but then it needs to be carried out like as it's written or in the spirit of the law. Uh, and if it needs to be changed, it should be the the necessary changes should be just discussed and it should be amended. Uh, but without if you can't know what the consequences to your actions are, then you can't really know what like how you should correct your own actions. Um, Although I'm not sure that that really correlates to altruism, since altruism is like holding like a idealistic set of values that you if you really embody altruism, you don't deviate from those values at all or those ideals at all. Ron Paul would be an altruist. Unfortunately, we can't all be Ron Paul. Um, but we need the corrections in society that are carried out by justice to cause people to want to gravitate toward or to to incentivize people towards altruism or to incentivize people towards like uh, identifying like higher values and then like embodying higher values. And like balancing love and fear is very like I mean you might do that if you were doing like if you were conducting like social engineering stuff like that. Um, I think we need to stop and reassess our like utilization of social engineering because like do we really know that we're getting like the effects that we want and then like what like what is happening out there? Excuse me. Like I don't even know like what is going on. Like when like because I just it like the experience that I have is just so it's like so weird to me. Like understanding like who I am and then understanding how people want to communicate about who they want to say that like I am. Like it it's not like that's they I don't know. It's really irritating. And they don't want to like give me like a word about it. I mean, it's getting like, and I mean like in my own like in my personal life, like they don't. It's just weird. Like it's weird. Like they won't they they won't look at like they won't look beyond what they already see and what they think they see, which is not what is there. And they won't reassess it, and then they tend to short circuit like conversation, and then it doesn't like they play games, and I'm like, why? Like, I don't understand. Like, and that's what like how would you know? Like, I don't understand. like why like people would be like, let's think of like things to say about this person, and then like that's what we're gonna do. That's the value that we contribute to like society or the social like atmosphere, this local like social atmosphere or whatever. Like, yeah, like do you really do that? I mean, like gang stalking stuff like that, or like just like silly games like let's screw with his head, like at I don't know, and then it's like how do you like does that really happen like like do you even realize like how crazy that would make somebody feel like if that was really happening like I can't let my like I don't really want to believe that it's happening so I just don't really care um, because like the people like don't they don't use my name like like what are you afraid of? Oh, are you afraid of the same thing that you think I'm afraid of? Is that what you're like? Was that why? Like, is that why? Like the gang stalking street theater people are like they don't have anything to say to you. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're what are you afraid of? It's like, oh, you're like, wow. So what's motivating your behavior? Because you're not motivating my behavior. Like, I don't even know what you're like. You're just like bothering me, and it's weird because most groups of people don't bother me. Like, it takes a weird like I don't know, and it makes me feel crazy. So I just put my headphones on, or I just like move to another like table because I can do that. Like it's a free society. You can just like move to another place if you want to another table. Then they leave because it's like their fucking job. It's hilarious. It's like we got him. He's sitting in the chair. We're gonna talk about him. You got your lines ready? We're doing. We're gonna do it. Are you ready? Oh shit! He walked to that other table way over there. We can't follow him. That would be too obvious. And it's like, and then I feel crazy for even having to do that. But I mean, I can. Why not? Like sometimes you want to sit in a different place, and I can do random things. And it like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, and like I shouldn't engage in some of the random things. They're time wasting and like, and I. But at least I don't have to really think about it. I don't really like. I don't really like game stories. I'm like certain that I've encountered some, and I don't even know where they come from. Like where like anyway. So I think I'm done here because I've just been on here for too long. I'm gonna go ahead and finish reading these lines, but that's about it. I'm like kind of burnt out on trying to figure out what this means. So I'm gonna update like the description or something, and then just the description with the reading, and then I'm not gonna really say very much about it, and then I'm gonna like reflect on like how like this was another really profound one for me, just because it means like things are kind of like coalescing is before completion. We're almost there, uh, but we're actually culturally accelerating. Um, and then we have coming together. So we're coming together. But we still have to constantly reassess, like, and make sure that like we're aware of like how to bring people closer and how to like compel people to adopt um, I think more uniform like higher values. And that it doesn't need to be like people just need to respect each other. I think, and then like I don't know, like, and it seems like everybody else knows what's going on, and I'm the only person that's like just like trying to get coffee, like, and just like write things, and people are like, don't write things. We're gonna sit here and like. It doesn't happen all the time. But oh, and if I flip my hair too hard, it might fly off. I mean, I, I hate when I say stupid things like that and get humor and then realize it's fucking the dumbest thing to say. Because I really meant, I mean, I don't know, I'm starting to like, it's starting to go. They used to be like, oh, why can't I spike it? Whatever. Also, I guess I just need to take a shower. Alright, I'm so done here. Before completion, a third line, before completion, attack brings misfortune. The furthest one across the great water. So the great task, we need to endeavor to do that. Just like connecting this to the quarry is like I can interpret this, but then like bridging the gap is a little bit hard or difficult. Uh, yeah, so don't, yeah. As we progress further through like the lines and the time and the before completion, changing hexagram, um, we need to avoid mistakes. Slow down a little bit, reorient ourselves, make sure that we're like on the right path. And in the third line, everyone should be people should be like aware that we need to move forwards, like always forwards, um, and that we should and that like if we the proper direction is to you know move forwards. We have to kind of like worry about like situations like emerging that like disrupt the unity that we've gained in the third line, and so we have to be aware of like factionalism, or we have to. I'm just trying to like interpret this in terms of society and my local circumstances, and then also for myself individually all at the same time. And it's like it's a lot of gears to shift. Uh, see, 9 in the fourth place means perseverance brings good fortune. Remorse disappears. Um, shock, thus to discipline the devil's country. For 3 years, great realms are awarded. Um, and at this point, we've begun to cross the great water. We've begun to like really bridge the gap. We've begun to like use the attractive. We've begun to use love to create attractive dynamics in society and pull people back together, without having it all kind of fall apart. Then we need to keep moving towards that. And as we do, we'll find that we have more in common, and thus remorse disappears. There's nothing to worry about because we should consider ourselves all to be one. Um, I'm not sure what the devil's country means. The forces of decadence. Um, I'm not sure what that really means literally. I think that for society, that means to like be aware that there's people who like there's like externalities. There's externalities that make this challenging, and then there's external like powers that like they don't want us to be strong. They don't want us to be unified. Um, and they don't I don't and maybe they don't expect us to be able to do it. But I think like we have to do it. Like it's necessary. Like we don't if we don't do it, if it gets worse, then like we're screwed. And so we all have like collective incentivization. I mean, and but yeah, I mean, we have to figure out. We have to build bridges, and we should fear like there's positive uses to fear too. We should fear not building bridges. We should fear not like collecting, coming together. We should fear um, not having enough unifying ideas and unifying dialogue and like kind of like unifying anchors to like discourse or to like anchors sort of in the I don't know a sense of like it needs to stay on our mind. It needs to the challenges that we encounter like we need to look for options that like pull people together. And so that should be the challenge. Like how do we build bridges? And if we do that, then we'll be fine because um, I think like I think some foreign powers or some external powers or some forces like outside our control expect us to fail or need us to fail, and so we have to be able to counter that. Sixth and the fifth place means perseverance brings good fortune. No remorse. The light of the superior man is true. Good fortune. And this is the ruling line. And we perseverance brings good fortune. We need to work hard. We really can't look back. We should not have remorse. And the light of the superior man is true. And the superior man is more of an idea, not a person. Like, and we need to make sure that like, and this connects well to like altruism and the development of altruism. We need to make sure that like that's visible, that's rewarded. It's um, like being and the superior man is like a concept from Confucianism, um, and there's like two different. Yeah, it basically means like gentleman or lord son. It literally means lord son. So we need to elevate those people. Make sure the people that are like doing these things to bring people together um, are rewarded, and we need to conduct discourse that makes people aware of the challenges that we face, so that people will work hard. And 9 at the top means there's drinking of wine in genuine confidence, no blame, but if one wets his head, he loses it in truth. Don't get wet, apparently. I don't know, I mean, alright, it discusses, it's talking, when it says, but if one wets his head, he loses it, in truth, it's talking about, I'm talking about getting drunk. It may mean that, like, figuratively, like, you know, the previous hexagram after completion, or the next, no, yeah, the previous hexagram 63 after completion represents a gradual transition from a time of ascent past a peak of culture to a time of standstill. The hexagram before completion represents a transition from chaos to order. So we're like, things are still not complete. They're like, forms are still not like uh, there's still like novelty and potential for change, and there's gonna be a lot of that with technology. So I'm sure everybody's like sick of hearing that. But with technology, you've all seen an iPhone, man. Come on, we know it's coming. Robots. Um, the hexagram before completion represents a transition from chaos to order. This hexagram comes at the end of the book of changes. It points to the fact that every end contains a new beginning, thus it gives hope to men. The Book of Changes is a book of the future. You heard it here first, folks. Um, it really is a book of the future. I mean, it's ridiculous. I never thought like I don't know. It's really deep. Like I don't know how to like emphasize that adequately. Uh, it points to the fact that every end contains a new beginning. That's a yeah. The idea like the creative, the receptive, hexagram 1 and 2, peace and standstill. Those are kind of like pairs, and there's lots of different like interrelations between these hexagrams, and those four are really interesting. Um, the creative, peace, standstill, and the receptive. Um, and peace and standstill sort of describe similar situations to before completion and after completion. Uh, all right, well, I'm pretty much done. But these two are also very interesting from a, and this is I would like to write a book eventually like called the Analytic Ching, and it's all about machine learning metaphors or analogies using the imagery from the hexagrams. So 63 after completion is kind of like it's kind of like the analytic is like, uh, I don't know if I don't know if I would really call it that. That's a little bit I don't know, a little bit pompous. The judgment, the image, the analytic. Uh, but every model of an IRL system in real life system, either socio-physical, biophysical, or physical, um, all these models of real life systems are inherently heuristic. If they're not like once systems become like complicated, like the only way you can really reason about them is through like heuristics. Um, it's not necessarily true, but after completion is where you like is the complement to number 64. But regardless of however comprehensive heuristics may be, one certainty is that they can never be complete. But that's not very after completion. That's something. And then before completion, the analytic would be like anticipation of the completion of the coalescence of form. So like you're anticipating, like you're trying to determine whether your model is complete or not. And then if you apply these ideas of before completion and after completion to like Jungian like psychology, like you can sort of define like what it means in analytic like psychology terms, like what would like position somebody to be like on the cusp of like falling in love. But what it is that they are after completion, or yeah, yeah, they're in like an after completion state or a standstill kind of state, like in their psychology, and they think that they're like models of viewing the world are adequate, and they haven't really hit anything that indicates that they're not adequate, and or not adequate. Adequate's not a very good word there, but sufficient is probably like they see they're like good at like understanding the patterns uh, that they see and the patterns of behavior that they see and the behavior dynamics that they see and like they feel like their mind is complete and they may still seek continual like they may still seek to change their mind, but they don't feel a need for anything like emotionally, and then somebody comes along and then all of a sudden like that person shows them something for some reason that like uh, puts them in a situation where they like rapidly develop new like new forms or new understandings of things or new understandings of phenomena, or the person opens their perspective to other things, and then all of a sudden for some reason that creates like a bond, but maybe not like well, but it has to be, well, in order for it to be applicable to love, it has to be like really somebody else shows them something about themselves or about how they see the world that they may not have been able to see themselves, which is kind of what Tatiana seemed to do for me. I mean, and definitely did, but then at the same time, I'm like, what happened at the end of it? But then, like, I never would have been interested in acting, for example. But of course, that's silly because it's, but that's kind of like what I'm talking about is that, like, and of course, that's like out of my league, but like, I never would have, like, I would have been like, acting, I'm not interested in that. No. And then suddenly I was like, wait a second, like, huh, what the hell? Like, acting would be like really good for me. I'd be really bad at it. But but in all kind, like in a lot of different ways, like it would help me expand how I see the world. And it would also, more importantly, it would help me like understand how to abstract behavior, and then just like develop abstraction for for psychology, for like thinking about for like reasoning about like literature, story development, like and all these other things. And like I mean I thought about all these things. I mean I've seen movies, I've seen I've seen plays, like blah blah blah. I don't even know why I'm talking about this, but cause it's like it's frustrating at this point, like because I'm like what I don't even know what happened. But I became like interested in it like for reasons I didn't expect, and then like in doing like in having that happen, it like caused me to see myself in like a kind of a completely different way, uh, or to begin to see myself in a different way. Like it opened up like which like I mean obviously not like it's um not and I'm not saying like I fell in love with it. That was the only example of a person that I could think of that like did that because it's like it's it's kind of hard for me to do that. Like no, like I mean, and it's not necessarily like hard, but and it's not a good thing for me. But I don't know. It's like hard for me to encounter somebody who blows my mind like oh like or whatever. Like I there causes significant changes, and then the significant like I don't care about like I don't really want to talk about how it applies to me, but the significant changes like lead to developments that are exciting, and the person pursues those like developments, and there's novelty, and there's constant like new things and new people and other things, and none of that happened. I mean, some of that happened, but none of whatever. I've got to log up. So it's been almost 4 hours, and thanks for watching. If you've watched, I'm gonna like update the description with the reading, and this is kind of why I like teaching or because these things are really like profound, like really, 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 really profound. For whatever reason, whenever I use these, profound things happen. I don't know if there's like energy in these. Like, I, I find like this biophysical energy to be really interesting, and like I never noticed it for so long, and now like I can't like maybe, and I think I like unlocked it because I ate too many goji berries and drank too much green tea, and for whatever reason this energy, um, it's there and it never was before, and like I can feel it in other people, so I'm like, let me feel your energy, and I'm like, there it is, and they're like, what? And I'm like, there it is. I don't know if they can feel it. I'm pretty sure they can feel it because I can feel it. Like because I can always feel my energy when I feel my energy. Like both hands, I feel like something like moving around. It's not really physically moving around. It's like a higher order energy that's like biophysically. It's like some kind of biophysical quantity. So it's not direct physical like joules. It's some like joules times something or joules. Some kind of like I don't know. It's not literal energy, but you can feel it. I don't know why, and that would be interesting to find out. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace.